Alright, so if you're serious about surviving high-level combat in Elite Dangerous, especially when it's you against multiple engineered ships, or you're trying to survive in open play, pip management isn't optional, it's a must. It can literally be the difference between controlling a fight and a date with that rebuy screen. And if you're one of those pilots who just leaves their pips in a lazy 2-2-2 format the whole time, like I myself can be guilty of at times, then yeah, this one's for you, my friend. If you're brand new or just never touched this part of the game, pips are the power distribution point system on your ship. You've got 6 in total, and you can assign your pips to your systems, which is going to affect your shield strength and recharge rate, as well as your ship's overall resistance. Your engines, which is going to affect your speed, boost recharge rate, and maneuverability, and your weapons, which affects how long you can fire before overheating or draining your capacitor. This is not a static system. You will be constantly moving pips around in order to adapt to what's in front of you and all around you. Pips are how you control your ship's energy in Elite Dangerous. As we stated, you can send power to your shields, engines, or weapons. And where you put that power changes up how your ship performs. Adding more power to systems will boost your shield's recharge rate and also gives your shields a boost to their absolute resistance for every pip added to systems. Starting off at, of course, a 0% boost at no pips, going all the way up to a 60% boost to your shield's resistance if you have all 4 pips in systems. So if you ever heard the term pip checking someone, it's pretty much referring to shooting them when they have 0 pips in systems and taking a big old chunk out of them shields. So don't get pip checked. Make sure you put something into systems. Adding more pips to engines will increase your ship's throttle's full capabilities, allowing your ship to hit its true non-boosted top speed. While it's different for each ship, having 0 pips to engine will cause you to lose around 20 to 30% of your thruster's maximum power output. Adding pips to engines will also affect your ship's maneuverability, allowing you to be more mobile and perform tighter turns and maneuvers at higher speeds. And then finally, you got your weapons. Unlike with systems and engines, weapons are the only one that does not directly benefit from moving around pips, as there's no increase or decrease in actual damage per shot. However, having a drained capacitor will slowly cause your weapons to fire slowly before coming to a complete stop once the capacitor is fully drained. Or with some weapons, it will cause your ship to build up heat faster. So while not directly affecting the weapons themselves, moving pips around into weapons is a vital part of combat pip management. Listen, if you're ignoring pip management, you're flying at a huge disadvantage. So now that we know why pips are important, let's go over some basic pip setups that you'll use the most. Think of these as your default stances for different situations. It won't cover every aspect of a fight, but if you know these, you will be able to adapt on the fly without having to overthink your pips. For general travel around the galaxy, a solid starting point is 2 systems, 4 engines, 0 weapons. You don't need your guns powered up while you're just flying around, but you do want strong engines so your boost recharges quickly. The 2 pips in systems gives your shields a little bit more resistance in case you take a few hits while maneuvering or slam into the side of a station while trying to boost into the mail slot. In combat, the 2 most common starting points, in my opinion at least, are 4 systems, 2 weapons, or 2 systems, 4 weapons. Depending on your ship and weapons needs, if you're flying something slower or a shield tank, you'll probably want to lean more into 4 systems to keep your shields rock solid while you trade shots. If you're flying a faster, more aggressive ship, that's weapons are power hungry capacitor wise, you might favor 4 pips in weapons to push out more sustained damage. The key is to switch between them depending on what's happening in the fight. Now, if you're flying against a smaller, more maneuverable target, try 0 pips to systems, 4 in engines, and 2 in weapons. By dumping everything into engines, you'll squeeze out the fastest boost cycle your ship can manage, helping you to close the distance and keep that nimble ship inside your firing arc. The 2 pips in weapons should be just enough sustained fire to make your shots count when you finally do get them lined up. Now, do be mindful, you're sacrificing shield strength with 0 pips into systems. So the idea here is simple. Stay on the offense. and keep the pressure on so they don't have time to exploit your weaker defense. The key takeaway here, don't stick to just one formation. You want to flow between them all, sometimes every few seconds, based on how the fight shifts. And just a quick tip before we move on, unless you're taking fire, boosting for position, and laying down pew-pew all at the same damn time, then you do not want to be in a 2-2-2 formation. Now that we know what pips are, why they are important, and some default pip setups to get you started, let's talk about some common mistakes folks make when it comes to pip management. One of the biggest mistakes a newer pilot can make is locking into one pip setup for the entire fight. Maybe they watched this whole video and the only thing that they came away with was run 4 pips to systems and 2 pips to weapons. And then they will go and treat it like that's the end-all be-all. The problem with that though is combat in Elite Dangerous is dynamic. No 2 fights are the same. Hell, no 2 passes in a joust are gonna be the same. And if your pips aren't changing and adapting, then you're leaving survivability, maneuverability, or damage on the table. Another common mistake is over-investing in weapons at the expense of systems or engines. Now I get it. It can be very tempting to dump 4 pips into your guns to keep the fire going. But once you've got 0 pips in systems, your shields will recharge slower and fold under sustained fire. Even worse, if your shields collapse, your hull is now fully exposed without that damage resistance that systems pips provides. That's how you go from winning a fight to the rebuy screen in seconds. And finally, a classic rookie mistake that I'll do from time to time, and that's forgetting about engines during an escape. If you're boosting away from an enemy or trying to wake out, you want as many pips and engines as possible to keep your boost recharging as fast as possible. Staying at 2 pips and engines while running is like trying to sprint underwater with a weight vest on. You're basically just giving your pursuers free shots on target while you crawl away. Pip management should become second nature. Sometimes you do it without thinking. The fastest way to build that muscle memory is to practice in controlled, low-risk environment. Think low-res sites, nav beacons, or even friendly duels with wingmates. These are the perfect place to drill your pip changes without risking millions in rebuy costs. You should also consider binding your pip controls to something quick and easily accessible. On a HOTAS, use a thumb hat for pips. On a controller, assign them to the D-pad. On keyboard and mouse, honestly, I don't know. I've never flown with keyboard and mouse, but just make sure it's somewhere that you don't have to look down at in order to press. If you have to hunt for the key, you'll hesitate. And hesitation in Elite Dangerous is one of the quickest ways to lose a fight. Now, before we get out of here, I just wanted to give you all some quick tips that have made pip management a bit more easier, for me at least in my opinion. Firstly, get used to micro pipping. Even moving from 2 to 3 pips in weapons for 5 seconds can let you get off that last rail shot and kill your enemy before they get you. And next, just to reiterate, do not overcommit to weapons. Your damage output is meaningless if you're dead. Your systems is your insurance, especially in multi-ship engagements, is one of the main things keeping you from the rebuy. And finally, engines buy you positioning. And in Elite Dangerous, positioning wins fights. Look, pip management is one of those skill gaps that separates casual pilots from the real killers. To most, pips are just invisible, but to those who know how to fly, it is everything. If you want to be a better combat pilot, start thinking about your pips before the fight even begins. Don't let them sit idle, and make sure you're moving them with a purpose. The more you fly like this, the more fights you will walk away from, wondering why the game feels so easy. But till we meet out in the black, fly safe, fly dangerous, midnight out. See you, Space Cowboys.